In recent weeks and months, we have seen a shocking increase in extremist disruption and criminality. Now our democracy itself is a target. Our streets have been hijacked by small groups who are hostile to our values and have no respect for our democratic traditions. Islamist extremists and far-right groups are spreading a poison. That poison is extremism. We will also act to prevent people entering this country whose aim is to undermine its values.
The UK Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has just announced a new plan to address Islamist protesters who have been disrespecting British people and mocking them during peaceful rallies. At a recent protest, a Palestinian teacher held up a sign showing the faces of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the former Home Secretary Suella Braverman next to coconuts under a beech tree. When the UK police asked her about the sign, she claimed it was cultural expression. However, it seems she was mocking the Prime Minister and other British citizens. Intimidation, threats and planned acts of violence are not acceptable, and the government needs to stop such public abuse from Islamist groups through legal measures. In today's video, I will discuss the recent events where people mocked Prime Minister Sunak and the issue of addressing Islamist protesters. But before we get started, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest updates. Let's delve into the details. Meet 37-year-old teacher Maria A. Hussein. She recently joined thousands of pro-Palestine protesters in London, advocating for an end to Israel's actions in Gaza. During the rally, she held a sign showing Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and former Home Secretary Suella Braverman next to coconuts under a palm tree. Her message resonated strongly with Britain's ethnic minority communities. In these communities, coconut is often a derogatory term for someone of black or brown heritage, perceived as aligning too closely with white perspectives or values. This incident sparked significant debate. Some people argue that using the term coconut is racist and offensive, while others see it as free speech and a valid form of criticism. It's important to consider the context. At the time of the protest, a right-wing figure had called pro-Palestine demonstrations in the UK hate marches, and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had described the march as disrespectful. A few days later, the Metropolitan Police shared a photo of Maria Hussein holding her sign on their official account. They stated she was wanted in connection to a hate crime. The post gained widespread attention, quickly spreading across social media platforms. Consequently, Hussein faces charges of racially aggravated public disorder and is set to appear in court next month. A spokesperson from the Metropolitan Police confirmed the charges, indicating Hussein was notified by mail. In response, Hussein expressed surprise and disbelief, stating in an interview with Al Jazeera, "I had no clue that our term coconut would be appropriated by a group that doesn't use these words, then turned against me to incriminate me." Maria Hussein went on to say, "As a woman of colour and a Muslim, coupled with my outspoken criticism of our government's complicity in aiding and abetting a genocide against the Palestinian people, I find myself in a vulnerable position. These intersecting factors have made me an easy target for far-right extremists. I have always believed and continue to believe that I have full ownership of the word coconut. In many cultures, terms like this are employed to hold individuals of ethnic origins accountable when they utilize their power to endorse white supremacy ideals, narratives, and policies." It's challenging to fully explain her words, but essentially she feels unfairly singled out as both a crime victim and a target of ridicule. According to the Metropolitan Police, hate can constitute a crime if it stems from hostility or prejudice based on factors such as race, sexual orientation, disability, or transgender identity. Importantly, the definition specifies that the victim doesn't need to perceive the incident as hateful for it to qualify as a hate crime. Until recently, many were unaware that the term coconut could potentially be classified as such. It's noteworthy that not all public uses of this word have resulted in legal action. Lately, our streets have seen a rise in small groups hostile to our values and disrespectful of our democratic traditions. However, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has announced a crackdown. Many are anticipated to face legal repercussions, potentially including court appearances and visa cancellations. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak underscored the gravity of the situation, stating, "We cannot tolerate any form of hate or discrimination in our society. Recent events have demonstrated demonstrated that certain language and actions can be deeply offensive and divisive. Therefore, we are taking decisive measures to address these concerns and ensure that all members of our society feel secure and respected. This initiative against Islamist protesters is a necessary measure to uphold our principles of equality and inclusivity. Let's dig a bit deeper into these issues to understand them better. Free speech means the right to express your opinions without being punished by the government. It's a very important part of a democratic society. People should be able to speak their minds, especially about political matters, without fear. However, free speech has limits. For example, you can't use your speech to harm others, spread lies, or incite violence. In this case, Mariah Hussein's use of the term coconut during a protest brings up a big question about where to draw the line between free speech and hate speech. Hate speech is any speech, gesture, conduct, writing, or display that may incite violence or prejudicial action against or by a particular individual or group, or because it disparages or intimidates a protected individual or group. The law often has to balance protecting people from hate speech and protecting the right to free speech. This is not an easy task and can be very controversial. In Mariah Hussein's case, she believes she was exercising her right to free speech by using the word coconut. Others, including the police, see it as hate speech that could incite hostility against certain individuals. Words can have different meanings in different cultures. For instance, in some communities, the word coconut is used to criticize someone from an ethnic minority who is seen as betraying their cultural roots. This might be considered a form of cultural expression or a critique. However, when such words are used in public protests or against political figures, they can be seen as offensive or even hateful, especially if they seem to promote racism or discrimination. Understanding the cultural context of words is important in deciding how they should be used and understood. The government and police have a duty to protect citizens from harm, including harm caused by hate speech and hate crimes. They also have to protect the right to free speech. This means they need to find a balance between stopping harmful actions and allowing people to express their opinions. In the case of Mariah Hussein, the police decided that her actions crossed the line into hate speech and took legal action against her. This decision has been controversial, with some people agreeing with the police and others defending Hussein's right to free speech. Protests are a way for people to express their opinions and demand change. They are an important part of democracy. However, protests can sometimes become heated with strong language and actions that might offend others. In the case of the pro-Palestine protests, people were expressing their anger and frustration about the situation in Gaza. Some of their actions, like using the word coconut, have sparked debates about what is acceptable in a protest. The government's crackdown on Islamist protesters shows that it is taking a strong stance against actions it sees as crossing the line into hate speech or threats. When someone is charged with a hate crime or a racially aggravated offence, it means the police and the courts believe that their actions were motivated by prejudice against a certain group of people. If found guilty, the person can face serious consequences, including fines, community service, or even jail time. In Mariah Hussein's case, she has been charged and will have to go to court to defend herself. This could have a big impact on her life, including her career as a teacher. Public reaction to events like these can be very divided. Some people support the government's actions, believing that hate speech and intimidation must be stopped to protect society. Others believe that the government is overreacting and infringing on people's right to free speech. Social media plays a big role in spreading information and opinions about these events, often making them go viral and sparking even more debate. It's important to understand different perspectives on issues like free speech, hate speech, and protests. People come from different backgrounds and have different experiences that shape their views. By listening to and understanding these different perspectives, we can have more informed and respectful discussions about these important issues. So that's all for this video. Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more.